Hello, good morning. Now, I was going to wait until I got home I'm going to wait till I get home to continue this video, but I feel a word in my heart and in my spirit right now. And even though I don't look like I want to look in making this, I have to say this, that God truly makes all things new. And his desire is to make you new in this season. I'm not speaking about any other season. I'm speaking about this season, this month, the end of this year. He is trying to make all things new. And as I was thinking about how I was going to tell you guys that, God showed me a chessboard. And I don't know if you remember, God showed me a checkers board. And I don't know if you remember checkers back in the day, but we had these little pieces, and at first it looked like we were making like a bunch of insignificant moves. You know, some of the moves were real risky. You just didn't know if you were truly going to make it to the other side of the board and be crowned, like get your crown, your king, your queen, you know. And then once you got that crown, once you made it to the end of the board and you had them double stacked checkers, you could make the real moves. Like you had authority on the board, so to speak, because you had done all of these other things that allowed you to progress and get this crown. That's what God is trying to do in this season. He is trying to get you to let go of some things so he can truly make all things new. And I know we want to like open up the Bible and we want to flip through scriptures and we want to say, oh yes, God, he makes all things new, all things new. But I really want you to get that deep into your spirit, how God is trying to make your life new. And I have this word for you, that God says that he is not going to beg you. See, some things he shows how you need to let him go, and other things it takes, like through the process of time, he's been showing you what he wants to do with you, and you know the thing that's preventing you from doing what it is that he wants to do with you, right? You know the thing that's stopping you from letting that process take place, but you're afraid to let it go. God said, I'm trying to make all things new, but what he's not going to do in this season is fight. He's looking for those men and those women who is going to allow him to play checkers with their life, who's going to allow him to move them all across the board with the knowledge that at the end of the day, they're going to have a crown on their head, a crown of the kingdom. They're on a kingdom mission, okay? Because the king, the queen at the back of the board, when you got them double pieces, they were kingdom, okay? They was a part of the kingdom. They were able to make boss moves. But in order for you to get to that point, you're going to have to let go of some things. And I heard God telling me that the reason why he's not going to fight with you is because he needs people who he's not going to have to fight with during this process. This ain't like any other season, baby. When I tell you the world is changing, the world is changing. And for God to have to fight and grapple with you, and you have to sift everything that you know and everything that you want to do between other people, between what your mama said about you, between what your man got to say about you, between all these negative thoughts and all that kind of stuff. God said, not right now, not in this season. In this season, I need my sons and my daughters that'll move when I say move. No doubt about it. Okay? So I want to give you guys that word, because when I tell you it was heavy on my spirit, it was heavy on my spirit. But let's continue with this video. Girl, you're gonna have to excuse me. You're gonna have to excuse my appearance. I just came back from a run and the video is looking very informal, but here we are again, because I'm here with y'all. I think I'm gonna miss you guys so much, but I want you to realize that there's so much happening like this in this season of life. And I told you guys I was gonna continue on the video that I did this morning, because that word, baby, that was a toasty word in my spirit, okay? And then I'm like, you know, as I'm running and just kind of moving about, I'm thinking about the importance of moving on. And the importance of realizing when it's time to let go. I mentioned that earlier, and I mentioned that in yesterday's video a little bit too. And I kind of want to give you guys just a few stories. I don't have any notes for this video. I'm kind of just going to like talk to you guys like we friends, girl, because we are friends. And I want to say this first thing before I start into like stories. your inability to let go of people, of things in the right timing will cause you to miss certain things. And then you'll come to this point where you realize that you're missing certain things, and then you'll begin to despise other people, and you'll begin to try to tug on other people and really annoy other people. Annoy other people with your neediness. And your neediness is I understand it. I understand your need to be needed. I understand your need to want to be included. But just know that when God opens up a space for you to get to drop off some of those bags, it's imperative that you do that, because you will become one of those people. I know we like to look at people who have issues, whether it be mental health issues or just issues like, you ever met somebody that's really, really clingy? And I notice it a lot, because just from a personality standpoint, I'm not a very clingy person, but you can become that person as well. I can become that person. Even though I'm sitting here saying from a personality standpoint, I'm not clingy, let something happen. When my husband and I went through that little rift, you'll get to this space where you're like hyper focused on somebody else's mess. You like hyper focused on what they doing, when they doing it, and you forgot all about the thing that is called your life. Okay? And your life, I'm going to keep saying this. Unfortunately, we live in a society today where you think that your life is all about you. Some people do. You think that everything that you acquire, everything that you get, like every blessing that you get, is so you can flex on other people. Your life is not about you. Watch that video from the other day. That the things that you are granted in your life is about you running your leg of the race. And you know, we're not going to talk about manifesting things in this video. You can manifest things. You can manifest every single thing that God has assigned to your life. But you better believe that you're not getting anything that was not due you. Okay? You're not getting any blessing that wasn't due you. I'm just saying. And if you have the illusion that you are getting a blessing, go watch that video from yesterday. Go watch the video from yesterday. But I say all of that to say because, you know, I have people in my life. I realize that your desire to cling to me is really because you realize that you missed your mark. You think that you missed your mark. There's always, as long as there's breath in your body, there's time for you to press forward and go toward the place that God has called you to. But if you're not careful, you'll get so tied up and wrapped up in the space, like holding so tight onto stuff that you can't even think about where you're supposed to be from worried about everybody else.
All right, but I actually can't tell you this story. So I'm going to tell you this story because I know some of you guys ask me about this, and it's always one that everybody loves the how I met my husband story, right? Everybody loves a story like that. So within this story is a lot of, I'm not going to go all that into detail, but I'm just going to talk about, let me see if you can point out the window of opportunity before we close out this video, okay? So at this time, I had just got the word that my son was going to come and move with me. Okay, I was still working at the salad place. I didn't really have much of anything, but I knew that I did know I was going to have a baby girl. I told you guys this story. I knew I was going to have a baby girl, and I just knew that God wasn't going to have me out here being ratchet as I had always been being ratchet. And I just knew that. So I knew that by me having this baby girl, I was actually going to get married as well, okay? So I committed myself to, well, what does Tanzania as a wife look like, okay? And where could I have a good example of that? Not in my everyday life, okay? What I did was I started to search. I started to read books. I started to read the Bible. I started to look at the lives of other people who were actually living out like this faith walk of life and marriage online. That's what I started to do. And long story short, it was time for me to move. I started working for this company called Compass. They like employee kitchens, right? So y'all know when I moved to Houston, I actually moved to Houston with the hopes of becoming an executive chef. Go figure, that's what my husband is. That slowly went down to the, it was really just a way for me to get out, okay? It was just a way for me to get out, if I'm honest. So I came here like that. So I had a lot of like restaurant skills and all these kind of things under my belt. So the job was easy. It was an easier job for me to get. We'll say that. So I was working for this place, and it was close to the salad joint. One of the workers at the salad place told me about, he moved into this another company called Flick, and the Flick is within Compass. And they were hiring, they were paying like $14 an hour. We only making like $10 an hour at the salad place. I was like, okay, cool, sign me up. And I went there. Now, when I got there, I realized that the company that I was working for there was actually the same company that I was working for at Halliburton. Remember I told you guys when I was at the Full Circle video, when I was at the hotel, the place that I used to have to walk at 4 o'clock in the morning to? I was working there through a staffing agency, so I never knew I knew the back company, but I didn't know how to apply for that company. So when I started working at this job, I realized that there was an opportunity to get back into the company. Now, a little backstory. When I left Halliburton, one of the chefs actually took me up here. So he took me to that place, Swin, that big tall building I showed you guys. He took me there, and they were just opening an account, so we got to set everything up. We were making a lot of money. I mean, a lot of overtime. We were working 16, 17 hour days making coin. Okay. I think they were paying like $14 an hour at the time just to set up the building. And after they finished setting up the building, they were like, we can't pay as much as we were paying, and you don't get all the overtime. I was there with a staffing agency, so I didn't mind. I moved back with my staffing agency, and the chef was like, can you come on? I'm like, well, I live too far away. I literally live on the other side of town at this point. So long story short, I cut off that relationship, but while I was there, I worked very good, okay? While I was there, my work ethic was shown. Keep that in mind. So when I got the chance to go to this other place and found out that they were within the same company, it was at a school. So, during the summertime, school is over, you have a chance to move around. So at this place, I asked the other people what they were doing. They say they filed unemployment during the summertime, and I'm like, you know what? I could just transfer out to another account. Well, the guy didn't want to transfer me out because he said, you're a good worker and I'm afraid you're not going to come back. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Long story short, I end up going back to the account, but I didn't want to go back to the account because who wants to go back to a place that they used to work? It just seemed like I was moving backwards. It just seemed, real backwards. I didn't want to. You always want to seem as though you're moving up. You always want to seem as though you're moving on. And to me, it felt like a very backwards move. So I was very hesitant. But the more I sat back, I told you I was fasting because I was broke. The more I sat back and talked to God, I realized that this was a different kind of move. And I made a vow to God that I would not leave this job. When I moved to this next job, I would not leave this job without stability. Okay, I prayed to God and I said, I am not going to leave this place that you're going to bless me with without stability. All right. That was the thought before I even got there. So I called up the chef and he was like, of course, can you come in tomorrow? Can you sign the papers tomorrow? We'll get you all signed up. Now he was a little shady, okay? So he didn't mind stepping on the other man's toes to push the paperwork to get me in the door. And I remember I went up there, I'm excited. I'm like, it's literally a few days away from my birthday. I'm getting a new job. My son's finally moving with me. The whole thing is just the favor of God is on my life is very apparent, and it made me very happy. And y'all know I like to smile a lot. So my happiness and the joy from the inside was it just felt like it was radiating outside. And I remember walking into this place and this man was just staring at me. If you saw a ghost, it was me. He was just looking at me. And I'm talking to the chef, and I've just got out a pretty tumultuous relationship. I wasn't really checking for nobody looking at me like that. You're gonna have to do more than look at me, okay? So he was looking at me. He didn't really say much. I remember him stapling papers in the background. He was the sous chef. So he was, if you know anything about the executive chef, the executive chef is over the kitchen and the sous chef kind of answers to the executive chef. So he's like his hands inside of the kitchen. Executive chefs don't really work that hard, okay? So my husband was stapling papers. He was doing he wasn't even my husband at the time. He was stapling papers and doing the orders and stuff like that. And I just noticed that he was staring at me. So of course, the next week I actually came to work there. And that's when the whole conversation came about that he asked me, I was like, it was my birthday. My birthday was coming. I was just walking to the back, girl, just talking to myself, just bopping, really just excited about life, excited about what God had done in my life. And he asked me something, and I was like, yeah, it's my birthday. My birthday is this weekend. He's like, what are you gonna do for your birthday? And I said, well, I'm gonna go sit by the pool, have myself a few drinks, sit by the pool. And he was like, I said, but I can't swim. And he said, well, you want me to teach you how to swim? And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, whatever. So I walked away. I walked back into the little salad thing because I was doing my job. I was walked into the little thing where you prepare the salads, and I stopped and I said, was he I'm talking to myself now. I said, was he flirting with me? Was he flirting with me? Because he was a little older than me, but I noticed that he was very like youthful in spirit. Like he was just my type. I wasn't worried about his age and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, something about him is just what I like. But I also had to be cautious because I know just what I like had just got me in trouble. Okay. So I was like, you know what? Tanzania, pump your brakes. And no sooner than I pump my brakes, he comes up behind me and he was like, I was serious. Like, I can teach you how to swim. And I was like, no, you're not going to be able to teach me to swim. We got into this whole conversation. Later on that day, it wasn't that day, it was for my birthday. He came by, he taught me how to swim. Now, sometimes you are the stumbling block. Sometimes you are the problem. And I realized it that day in that pool that a lot of the work that God needed to do in me was not complete. I told you guys that I actually didn't want to have sex with my husband before I got married. Like whoever the husband was going to be, I knew that was a point that I was going to remove because of my past experiences. I knew that there was a point that I needed to heal from some things. It wasn't any super spiritual decision. However, I do realize how it was the hand of God, but it was just a realization, like a mind shift for me of I realized, Tanzania, you got a lot in this area and it needs to be healed. And how you going to heal something that you keep poking in? Okay. Literally. Sorry. I don't know where this video is going. So, yeah, we were kind of swimming around and talking. And I was, if I'm quite honest with you, I was waiting for him to make a pass. I was waiting for him to make a hard pass. And I was going to make a hard pass. Like I was going to use him making a pass at me as the reason why I know he's not the one, if I'm honest with you. So I was doing little silly things like, getting in and out the pool, so you can see your butt and stuff like that. And I remember calling my friend. She was like, Tanzania, what are you wearing? And I was like, I have on a bathing suit. She was like, you do not need to have on a bathing suit with this man. You don't know this man. Okay. You need to put on some clothes. Literally every other time I saw him had on a hoodie. But anyway, we had a very deep conversation we were just talking about marriage and stuff like that. And it was very odd because we weren't dating. We weren't anything. I mean, we were just like co-worker, barely. Girl, I had just started working there. Like, I'm not even considered a co-worker. I'm just a girl, we don't know each other. We don't know each other. So we were just talking about marriage and all this kind of stuff. And I remember he left that day and, I remember calling my friend, my best friend that I'm telling you guys about. You guys will probably see her later on. But I remember calling her and telling her, I think I met my husband. And she's like, well, you never know. You're like, Tanzania, you don't know. And long story short, we end up getting into an argument. And I really wish I could have him here to talk about this because we talk about this a lot and how significant this argument actually was. It wasn't even an argument. It was just like a pump your brakes. No. And how significant it was to our marriage now and it was a very foundational point to our marriage now. So I was walking, so I worked as a barista. I got hired as a barista, but I had culinary skills. So they had me in charge of the salad bar and stuff. So I used to walk in the front of lot. He's a sous chef. He always walking around type of thing. And I walked past him telling the cashier that he would never get married again. And in my mind, I'm thinking, we were just talking about marriage and stuff in the pool. So if you're not going to get married again, why would you even be entertaining me? My mind automatically went to, I just had a Negro play with me for 7 years. I just had another relationship where I was being played with and I'm not doing that. You should let me alone. If you didn't want to do anything, consider me out of it. So I remember telling him, I think I texted him, I did. And I said, I wish you would have told me that, girl, with a high attitude. And he pulled me into the walk-in, which is like the cooler, the refrigerator where they keep all the food and stuff. And we were kind of like in there. And he was like, I don't remember the whole conversation. What I do remember is, what we both remember is him saying, Tanzania, you might be the one to change my mind about marriage. And me, can you tell? Attitude Tanzania, like, don't play with me, okay? I said, I am not in the business of changing anybody's mind about me, because I did that. I did that for what? I was 24, I think, when we met. So the last boyfriend I had was like from 18 to 24. And it wasn't even a boyfriend. It was a situationship for that long. Me trying to change my mind, trying to change his mind about me. I'm not in the business of changing any, and still to this day. You could think a lot of things, babe, but you need to think whatever you want to think, because I'm not in the business of changing your mind about what you feel about me. Okay? No. Even as far as like, this is a total tangent, like YouTube. You think what you think. I'm not in the business of changing your mind. I'm not. I'm just not. So I told him that, and that really caused like us to separate. So when I say we never dated really. I mean, we didn't spend a lot of time together, but we didn't spend a lot of time together because I had let it go. I said, man, I thought it was going to be my husband. I thought this was going to be the thing. And it wasn't like I knew that he was a possible candidate. However, there was nothing else that would be like, oh, that's him. Because we didn't spend a lot of time together. I just knew I got that word, and then that was it. So we didn't really talk to each other. And that day, like, we tried to correct everything. And, well, he tried to call me and like correct everything and just kind of make things right, because I had heard what he said. And I remember like he was gonna, I was gonna invite him over because I thought he wanted to talk about it. And I sent him a picture that was totally inappropriate. And then I remember apologizing. I said sorry. He ignored the picture completely. And then I realized that, Tanzania, you are trying to use your body to manipulate this situation, and that's not what this is. Like, when I tell you he didn't bite it at all, like, because he didn't bite it, it almost made me want to push a little harder. Ain't that crazy? That's trauma. That is unhealed foolishness. And that's what a lot of people be doing today. Like, I get you're cute. Of course I was cute. Of course, you're fine, girl. You're bad. You got booty. You got all that. And that's all cute. But this ain't that, okay? You want to mix your pleasures with what God is trying to do. And God would not allow me to do it because he wasn't biting, okay? And he wasn't biting because he too had his own issues. It's like, so it don't stop at a big booty. It don't stop at a big booty. It don't stop at thick thighs. It don't stop at a pretty face. It don't stop at none of that. I need a little more than that. And what I didn't know was that this place that God was calling me to of self-control and of integrity was actually what he was looking for. So I want to say that I didn't even know this conversation was going to go there. But to the woman who is who's waiting for her husband to be found, there is a character that you need to be that man needs. Like, me being loosey goosey and popping it like it's hot, like that's not what he needs. And I know now the woman that he needs, girl, that man don't need no foolishness. That man don't need all that. All of that is so plentiful and it's so useless. It's not even fun. All of those things that I was trying to lure him in with that I had used in the past, they're useless now. They're useless. They wouldn't have got us through anything that we went through. If I'm honest, you wanted me to be honest. If I'm honest. So yeah, I tried to lure him in that way and it didn't work. Long story short is we never dated. That's how I met him. So I met him going back to a place that God allowed me to go to. And it wasn't my choice job. It wasn't my choice field. It wasn't my choice job. I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to do none of it. Okay. And so many doors opened. So many doors opened out of me just being obedient. Like, I know I don't want to go, but something about this, I know it's going to be good for me. Okay. All right. So I want to share that story because I know y'all be asking. But I told you guys the other day that when I tell stories, they actually include other people. And I don't want to, my goal is not to make mess out of my life, not to exploit myself on the internet. I just want you to understand that there are windows of opportunity and they may seem it might be something very small. It might be something as simple as those sheets who bought you that? That needs to come out of this house and go in the trash, okay? I can remember a time, this story don't include nobody, I could tell you about this. I remember a time I went on like a fast, and I was doing a fast by myself. It wasn't like any church event or anything like that. I just knew that I was moving somewhere, but I needed a little help. And I had, I had a lot of, what do you call my adult toys? We'll say that, keeping it PG, adult toys. And I remember God instructed me to pack all that stuff up and put it in a bag, okay? Was I following any rules? No, I wasn't following any rules. I wasn't asking anyone else what I should do. I was asking God, and God said, this right here is a part of your issue. My issues ain't your issues, right? So that's where it comes of having relationship with God is very imperative, because there are things about you. There are things about your personality. There are things that has happened to you. There are things that you have done. There are things that we don't know about that are very specific to you, that only God can give you wisdom on. But I want to tell you today that now is the time. And if there is there's an area, oh my God, all in this area right here is made new, and you keep trying to stay over here, okay? So let whatever it is part and split away and move into the new that God is creating for you, okay? I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video.